So I got the lathe going finally. It's the dead of winter right now. I have a heater in here. It does a good job of heating the space up, but in this corner, this is the machine I use the most on anything in here. It's my Cincinnati Hydro Shift. These things are tanks. They are like, this thing is seen from work, both for me and from the 6 other people who've owned it or whatever. The way these work is they have a hydraulic shifting mechanism, so there's no playing around with gears or anything. So to change the speed, you run the spindle, turn this dial to what speed you want, and you top the spindle, you hear a click, and it'll shift into gear. But in this corner where the motor and the totally legal phase generating device, it's like maybe 48 degrees, 50 degrees. So right now I have a space heater. So I gotta turn that space heater on about an hour before I want to start using this thing to heat up the oil, because otherwise it just won't shoot, you know? It's obviously running now. I'm proving out this pattern. It's going very well. I've done 3 rounds of inside spinning, and it's getting out to there. So that's a huge change. It was at 9 inches in diameter, or like a little under actually. And now we are at 10 with plenty of room left in the throat. So I think this pattern is gonna be so killer. Yeah, you can see how smooth it is. The inside, well, this is not smooth because this is not getting spun right now. But this, look how smooth that is. That smooths out all the wrinkles. I inside spin because of the consistency it gives me. It gives you the same stretch as hand hammering does, but it gives you way more consistency and way less hammer rash that has to be sanded away. Bernd sandner is probably the most prominent bell maker in the world. So the term hand hammer bell is almost exclusively a farce. Bernd sandner doesn't hand hammer bells. Bernd sandner does the same process I do of inside spinning. It's actually the first place I ever saw it done was on YouTube. John Duda started inside spinning in the 70s at Cancel. Doc Severinsen was there testing out bells. Duda had him play an inside spin and an actual hammered bell, and Doc couldn't tell the difference. Basically what we do here is we stick it out in the lathe and it looks ridiculous like that. This is a 5-more staper, and I just put some tape in there to shim it so it doesn't rattle. I'll go and poke it with the stick. Oh yeah, buddy, look at me. We are a high-tech production around here. If it weren't for the garbage on the floor, we'd almost be ultra compliant. So I'm gonna take some ordinary bar soap the inside. Then I'm gonna take this big wooden stick I got from McMaster-Carr. We're just gonna poke the inside, and you should be able to see the ripple in when I start. You see it move? So I just got a little crease right here. I just gotta hammer that out. I just tapped down a crease here, because once it starts to crease at the edge, you won't be able to get in there anymore and move it. I haven't annealed it again, so this is still the same anneal. So, if you can see, I'm just taking this edge and I'm it's basically getting folded out, so the diameter is growing, but it's also getting shorter. And that's important. So we are stretching the material, but we're not stretching the material so much that it's gonna just thin and crack. Because if we were just pushing the material out and the bell diameter was growing, but it wasn't getting shorter, less length that way, then we would get way too thin. Bells that have huge cracks and are broken in half don't make too good bells. Before that round of spinning, the diameter was 10 inches on the dot, and now it's like 10 3/8. So it grew that much. It doesn't really look like it is, but it just is. So we'll do one more round of poking on the inside, and then we'll switch to a different tool, and I'll show you that. That was a good one. That bell just got way bigger. So now we're gonna switch to another tool. You just want to tap those down before the problems later. Oh yeah. So after that one, we're like 10 3/4. The horn that this bell's for is only like 11 1/4. End up having a garland, so we don't need extra length for this bead. You don't really want to use the edge of the bell blank because it can get really thin. You want to use just inside. Part of the pattern is not just getting something bell-shaped. Part of the pattern is getting the thickness distribution on the actual finished bell where you want it. And that's kind of where you get into like the art of it. I'm still learning, obviously, because I'm fucking with the patterns. So a lot of people turn the lights off before they anneal, and I think it's kind of silly. On bent parts and stuff like that, I like to anneal in my kiln because it just gets it so consistent. For this, it's not practical to anneal this in the kiln because one, the tail can't be soft when it's in the lathe because it'll just crumple. When you turn the lights off, you can see the color better, but I'm not looking for color when I do this. I'm looking for the way the oils are like burning or the way the surface of the metal is wicking. When it starts to look wet, you know you're annealed well, but not too much. A lot of people way over anneal their shit. I've seen people burn the fuck out of a bell that they're repairing. They're heating up a crease or something to iron it out, which is totally fine. Like, I understand that, but they'll bring it up to fucking like ridiculously bright, and then go to burnish it. It'll burnish on really easily, but that metal is just totally fatigued. This bell is for the mandrel, which is a Vienna horn mandrel, or kind of an all-around Austrian horn mandrel. And this is the first attempt at that mandrel, because I made the mandrel. At one point, this was the Blessing marching horn mandrel, or at least one of them. They may have had duplicates. And I was recutting it, and I was getting really weird runouts, so I took the back plate off, and it was like they had slapped. This lathe is a 1 7/8 before I started cutting it, because then fucker. So I'm a very talented camera artist. So this is a very simple tool. It's just a piece of round steel welded to a piece of square steel. I made it. I did the welding. I'm waiting for these to break, to be honest. Before we were poking in and pulling out. Now we're just going to take the existing flare rate and we're just going to wrap it until we get to the diameter we need. This is where the diameter really rapidly starts to change. So that's probably good for this round. So you can really see how horn shaped it's almost coming. I think last time it was like 10 3/4 or something like that. You can see it's opening up a lot. Yeah, I need John to come do camera stuff for me. Fucker, yeah. 11. We're getting close. Oh yeah. This is gonna be a really shit nice pattern, dude. This is gonna be fucking tits. I'm so excited. So we're just gonna keep pulling it back, and you can see it'll stop being like a flower vase and it'll be more like a horn bell. So I'm gonna kneel again. Okay, back from a kneel. It's probably gonna be 2 or 3 more rounds. Sometimes the tape wears down, you have to just reapply more tape. I like using the tape. Everyone else I know thinks that I'm an idiot for using the tape, but I like the tape. I know when to stop, when partially on the feel of the metal when it's going, but also the sound it makes when it's moving, because you know you're going to go too far when you can start hearing, you know, like a pop can, you can like make it spring back and it makes that noise. That's the noise. But look at that, that's fucking tits, dude. That's a horn bell if I've ever seen one. This pattern is working out so well. It's so close. One more round, maybe 2 more rounds. Bro, look at that, that's all his faces. My old pattern. Now let's measure this bitch. Look at that. We're at like 11 3/8. Holy shit. If I wanted to make a 12-inch bell, I would need to add like a ½ inch to the end of the pattern. It's no big deal. See the hole at the end? That's where you put your face. Holy oh fuck yeah. Look at that fucker right there. This pattern is so close to being perfect, it is ridiculous. I had already cut out 3, well I have 2 more and then the one I was using for a pattern. So what's going on here, not a big deal, it's just got something I gotta take care of before I pre-spin. You can see it's all crunchy right now because I'm hammering in the flare. The pattern is a little bit too big in this throat area. You can look at it a couple ways. It's either too small in the tail or it's too big in this throat area. And I like to look at it this way because it's easier to change that area of the pattern, that little 6-inch section, than a 30-inch section, right? It's a little bit too big in that throat area, so the way to get around that is just to, on the mandrel, which is standing up right there, is to just hammer in that section and burnish in that section until it's close enough to pre-spin, and it'll be okay, perfectly fine. But the way to fix that for the future is, since I know I'm using this mandrel a lot, and the other mandrel is even smaller than this mandrel, so I'll have to trim on the inside on that one anyways, is I just, on these patterns I had pre-cut, I just trimmed in a little bit on this area. You can lay the bell onto the pattern because the patterns have the same start point even after they're hammered out, so like the end of the bell might be here, whereas it started there, it might be here now, so you can get a reference of where you need to trim material. So I just trimmed a little bit off the east side into here. So these bells should be perfect now, okay? But I am gonna change the pattern a little bit, just like tiny bits. So I still have 4, that's awesome. I still have 4, oh my god, I can get 4 patterns off of each sheet now. It's like such a burden being lifted off my back now. Because now I can go to same day to Crackmaster and pick up some brass. I got these 4, and as you can see, they're still just drawn out. I haven't trimmed it yet. So the changes I'm gonna make is I'm going to tighten this same area less than I did on those, and I'm gonna make right here a little larger. And that is gonna make this pattern so tits. It's gonna be the best horn pattern ever, okay? I'm gonna make so many fucking bells. I'm so happy I sat on that first Vienna horn bell. Oh, it's so sad. And it was engraved. Oh, so now Adam has to come back. I did 3 more rounds of spinning. I could actually do more if the tail was bigger, but for a 12-inch bell, I don't even have to make the pattern longer. This pattern will do a 12-inch bell. So these are all 016, the natural horn bells, which is so thin and so hard to work with, but historically accurate. So this is what the bell, if you remember, looked like before. Okay, So that's a pretty amazing change there, and that's all done spinning on the lathe. So this bell's 020, and this is going to be for the double horn that I'm working on. So this is going to be a 12-inch flare, and this pattern will be able to do it. So that's super exciting. Look at that braze. Oh yeah. Vinny, take notes. I'm better at brazing. Vinny's better at everything else. I'm gonna go get some Burger King.